Hey, this is Mad Movie Mark, another Mad Movie Mark movie review. Thank you for joining me as I review the 1953 Italian coming-of-age movie I Vitelloni.
Tutti, ma che vi siete messi in testa voi? Che vi siete...
Well, I'm reviewing every movie that has 100% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm giving them all a score of 1 to 10. After I watch them and score them all, I will rank them from worst to best. I started in the 1920 silent movie era, and now I'm at 1953 with I Vitelloni. This movie has a 100% fresh rating from the critics and a 90% fresh rating from the audience, and roughly translated into English, I Vitelloni means the big loafers.
I got a job in a bakery. Good. What are you doing there? Loafing? That's... Oh, boy. What are you doing? Loafing.
Where?
In the bakery.
You working?
Certainly.
Doing what?
Loafing.
Well, that's what I was doing here. I was just taking it easy. I was loafing.
No, that kind of loafing.
So this is a coming-of-age movie about a group of loafers. However, this is a different coming-of-age movie than what I am used to. So normally, if you look at movies like The Sandlot, The Breakfast Club, or even Almost Famous, which I would say is probably one of my favorite coming-of-age movies, it's about kids who are pre-teens, teenagers, or young 20s. I Vitelloni has a group of males who are all in their early 30s. Now, they all have aspirations. A couple of them have a really good talent that they possess, and they want to get out of the city that they're in. They aspire to be things that are bigger and better than what they already are. Their only issue is they don't really have the drive or the determination or the willpower, what it takes to really get out there and try to become something. They would rather kind of sit at home, lazy around, and hope that something lands in their pocket or comes their way to where they can really make it big. Now, although this movie revolves around 5 different characters, I would say we mostly see 2 characters in this movie as far as the male leads go, and that's Fausto and his girlfriend's brother, who is Maraldo. So in the very beginning of this movie, we meet Sandra. Sandra is the girlfriend of Fausto. She is pregnant, and at first, when we learn that she's pregnant, we realize that she is not too happy about being pregnant. In fact, she says that she wants to die.
Meglio. Mamma, cara. Sandrina mia, che voglio morire.
Now, this is confusing at first. It's just the beginning of the movie, so it's not really supposed to, give us any clues as to why she feels this way. But as we start to learn who Fausto is, we kind of understand that she believes that she might have made a mistake here and that she probably shouldn't be having a child with this person. So as soon as we learn that she's pregnant, the very next scene, we see Fausto packing his bags. He's getting out of Dodge. He's getting out of here. Well, he wants nothing to do with that kid. Now, what makes this even better is that Maraldo is in the room with him. And Maraldo says, "Hey, I see you're packing your bags there." And Fausto's, "Yeah, I got a really good job. I was offered a job and I'm going to take it. It's way away from here, so I won't be anywhere near here." And Maraldo says, "Yeah, but didn't you know that my sister was pregnant?" And Fausto says, "Yeah, sure, I knew she was pregnant, but she'll be fine. Don't worry about her. She has a good support system. Everything will be great. I have to go figure my life out now, so I'll see you later."
Sandra?
Sandra è stata eletta Miss Irene. Stava benissimo. Sarà contenta, no?
Sandra aspetta un bambino.
Sì, lo so. È per questo che parto.
So then Fausto goes up to his dad and he says, "Hey, can I borrow some money? I have a really good job lined up. I just need some money to get to where I'm going." And his dad just really lays into him. And his dad knows that Sandra's pregnant and knows that Fausto's trying to skip out on his responsibilities, and he doesn't want any responsibilities. So he basically forces Fausto to get married and to, actually do what's right in the situation. So Fausto and Sandra have a bit of a shotgun wedding, and then they go on a honeymoon. Now, after they get back from their honeymoon, they go to the movies, and while they're both at the movies, sitting next to each other, we start to learn why Sandra probably thought that this was a bad idea to have a kid with this person. He starts flirting with the girl next to him, where he starts playing footsies with her, and he starts giving her these looks like he's attracted to her.
Dovrei fidarmi delle tue parole, allora.
Ho sempre sospettato di provocato. Bill mi aveva detto di...
and that he wants this to go further than it's going. She gets up and she walks away. She's trying to get away from the situation, and then he excuses himself with Sandra, and he gets up and he follows her, and he follows her all the way home. And when he gets home, he starts like kissing on her and like, when can I see you again? You're so beautiful. And to me, this is weird. Like, I don't know who would actually get away with this in real life. And, I don't actually know how this would play out in any favorable way to the guy. But she seems to not take it too badly. In fact, later in the movie, she's all about this. But they part ways. And she says, you'll see me when you see me again. Like, I'm sure you'll see me again, don't worry. They part ways, and when they part ways, Sandra runs into Fausto again and asks what happened to him. He makes up some BS story, like he always does, and then they go off on their way. Fausto's dad then decides that Fausto needs to get a job. He can't be loafing anymore. He has a child, he has a wife. He needs to start making something of himself, really take responsibility, which is not what he wants. So he gets Fausto a job at his friend's store.
Parlo molto chiaramente, Guardi, ecco, come lei può vedere, questa è tutta la mia azienda. Modesta, perché è modesta.
Sì, vabbè, la chiami modesta.
È tutto fatto col nostro lavoro. Ecco, ora, parlandole sinceramente, io avrei avuto bisogno di un ragazzo di bottega o di un uomo di fatica.
Fausto is doing a pretty good job. Then we are introduced to his boss's wife. Maybe there's some attraction here at the beginning. It's really hard to tell. Actually, at first, he's probably not attracted to her because he hasn't yet tried to assault her in any way. And when Fausto decides not to assault someone, we can pretty much assume that at the moment there's no attraction yet. So then comes the big day of the carnival. It seems like in these older movies, especially in foreign movies, there's just a big day where they have a big carnival and everyone has a really good time. It was the same, I think, in Joe de Fête. There was a big carnival also, but it's a big carnival. Everyone gets dressed up and has a great time. One of the other loafers, whose name is Alberto, he is probably one of the big centerpieces of this scene.
Però quest'anno viene meglio il carnevale, La gente ha più voglia di divertirsi. Facci uno io anche dall'altra parte.
No, uno basta. Il vestito è pronto?
He gets up. I think he dresses as like a woman. He's dressed in a costume. Now, Alberto is a guy who lives with his mom and his sister, and he pretty much lives off of them. They pay all the bills, and he really just like has a good time, hangs out with his friends, goes to parties like this, gets drunk, and just lives his life. He has no responsibilities, so what does he care? So Alberto is at the party, and so is Fausto, and more importantly, so is Fausto's boss's wife. So his boss's wife is, they end up meeting each other at like a punch bowl, and she is somewhat inebriated, she is somewhat drunk, and he is also a little bit drunk, and they start flirting with each other here a little bit back and forth.
Signora Giulia, vuole un cognac?
Oh no, mi gira già la testa. Buonasera.
Buonasera.
Now, I mean, it's friendly flirting. It's not like it's something where you would act on it. It's just like a friendly flirting. It's nothing big. But he shouldn't be doing it anyway because he's married, and so is she. So it's not something they should be doing, but it's not like something I would say that should be acted on. Nothing should go further than what's going on here. So Alberto ends up meeting his sister at this carnival, and she tells him that she is running away with a married man and that she will no longer be living with him. Now he gets upset and depressed by this because now he is no longer able to push away his responsibilities. He's going to have to get a job and actually make something of himself. After the carnival, we see Fausto at his job, and he sees his boss's wife, and he thinks that he's back at the carnival because he starts flirting with her, he starts kissing her, he starts putting his hands on her.
Allora ci penso io.
Che temperamento. Solo ieri sera ho capito che lei è una vera donna.
Ma lei è ubriaco.
Sì, ubriaco di te, della tua carne, del tuo profumo.
Now, up to this point, I don't know if he's ever had any real pushback from this, because the woman he met in the movie theater, not really any pushback. She ended up being fine with it at the end. I'm sure Sandra, he got pregnant, so he eventually got his way with her. So he's trying the same thing with the boss's wife. And at the end, she definitely pushes him away and says she doesn't want any of this, that they were just having like fun at the carnival. They were both drunk. That didn't mean anything. And then he says, okay, well, just don't tell your husband and everything will be fine, right? Just don't tell your husband. So clearly, obviously, she tells her husband. Her husband invites him to their house, and her husband is his boss, invites him to their house, and he basically gives him the speech about how he loves his wife and how he would do anything for her. And then Fausto comes back with, oh, I know how you feel. And his boss says, no, you really don't, because you tried to hit on my wife, and you're fired. And he fires him.
E mi fa molta pena. E più pena di lei mi fa quella disgraziata di sua moglie, poverina. Vuole, tanto a lei le scuse non mancano.
Ma perché mi manderebbe via?
Per insegnarle a vivere. Perché io l'ho accolto qui come un fratello. Me l'hai scomportato come un mascalzone.
So Fausto, trying to save face with everyone, Moraldo and his sister Sandra, or sorry, his wife Sandra, his wife Sandra, he goes to Moraldo and he says, hey, I got fired, but it's not my fault, you see. It's my boss's wife. She hit on me and she came after me and she was really aggressive with me and she tried to assault me in a way, and then she told her husband that I did it and I got fired. And Moraldo says, well, that's not right. You deserve some sort of severance pay. They should have given you, if that's the case, you should have received something. They shouldn't have just fired you. And Fausto says, yeah, you're right. You know what? They have a statue of an angel in like their basement area of the store. I'm going to go down there and steal it. You want to come with me? So Moraldo goes with him. They steal this angel statue.
Bello, eh? Cos'è? È un angelo. Adesso ce lo portiamo via. Sai quanto vale questo qui? Vale almeno 40.000 lire. Ho visto le fatture.
They try to sell it. It doesn't sell anywhere. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't get anywhere. I think people are kind of wary about buying this from these guys because they're loafers. They don't have any jobs. How could they afford this statue? It just doesn't make any sense. Putting two and two together here, it doesn't make any sense. So they go home defeated. They go back to Moraldo's house and they have dinner with Moraldo and Sandra. And then Moraldo and Sandra's father comes in and he starts waylaying on Moraldo, and he is very upset because he heard that Moraldo and Fausto stole the statue and that they were trying to sell it and that this is one of his good friends who they stole it from, and he can't believe they did it, and he's very upset. And he says, that Fausto guy, he tried to hit on my best friend's wife. And then Sandra obviously hears this and she becomes very depressed. And she becomes a little bit distraught.
Di quel bel figuro lì mi sono dovuto raccomandare come un santo perché i carabinieri venivano. Carabinieri? Sì, i carabinieri qui in casa mia. E quest'altro sporcaccione ha dato fastidio alla moglie del mio più caro amico. Che vergogna.
So Fausto and Moraldo and Ricardo. So Ricardo is another one of the loafers. He is a baritone and he has ridiculous ambitions of being a singer and actor that will never come to fruition. And then another one is Leopoldo. He is an aspiring playwright, and he also has aspirations of he has a play that he wrote and he has aspirations of it becoming this really big play. So they go out to eat or they go somewhere, and when they go there, they end up meeting Leopoldo's idol, the guy who he idolizes the most as a playwright. And he ends up giving him a copy of the play, or he tells him what the play is about, and this guy really loves it. He's really eating it up. While they're doing that, Fausto and Moraldo and Alberto and Ricardo, they're at another table and they're hitting on these women. Now, Fausto is one of the men who are hitting on these women, and he's doing it right in front of Moraldo, which is very weird because that's his wife's brother. Now you can see why, Fausto, if you couldn't see before, why it's a bad idea to have any type of relationship with this guy.
Saranno simboleggiati da due figure ammantate di bianco. Effetti speciali di luce nera devono dare a questa scena un'aria incubatica e allucinata. Frida alla vetrata. Il grido dei gabbiani entra portato a tratti dal vento. Come presa da un brivido di freddo improvviso, Frida si volge. È stanca, invecchiata. Frida si avvicina a Luca. Non avremo più luna stanotte.
So, Fausto ends up sleeping with this girl that he's talking to, and Leopoldo ends up, going on a midnight stroll with this guy who he idolizes, and they're talking about this play that he wrote. And the guy is like eating it up. He says, "This is a great play. We're going to make this play. We're going to make it happen." And then he kind of makes it past at Leopoldo. And Leopoldo then hightails it out of there because he wants nothing to do with that. So after Fausto sleeps with this girl, he walks outside of where they were sleeping, the house or apartment or wherever they were sleeping at. And right there, ready to greet him, is Meraldo.
Ciao.
Ciao, bebè. Copriti, non piglia freddo.
Domattina vengo a salutarti alla stazione, eh?
Now, Fausto is talking like nothing's happened to him. Like, oh, like that girl just needed help with something. I've just been helping her all night. It's not a big deal. And Meraldo can finally see like through what's going on here, and he says like, "Hey, what about Sandra? Like, you're married to Sandra. You can't keep doing this." And Fausto's all like, "Don't get all holier than thou on me. Like, don't start lecturing me about this." I don't know why Fausto has this, like, I think it's a defense mechanism. Fausto is trying to put the blame on Meraldo instead of having the blame on himself. And Meraldo's the kind of guy that he won't, in public or outwardly, say anything about it. He will just, inside, he knows that this is wrong, and inside he knows that Fausto isn't correct, and Fausto is just being Fausto, but he's not going to say it out loud because it's not what he'll do. So Sandra gets wind of this happening, and she ends up leaving. She takes the kid and she leaves. Fausto feverishly looks for Sandra. He runs into that girl that he met at the movie theater, and now she's ready to hook up with him. But he kind of tosses her aside because now he cares about Sandra. So he's looking for Sandra. He finally finds Sandra at his dad's house. And when he gets to his dad's house, his dad beats him with a belt because of what he did. And Sandra ends up feeling bad for him that he got beat with a belt.
Ma babbo, cosa fate adesso?
Oddio, ma non sente?
No, non sento niente.
Lo sta picchiando.
And she ends up getting back with Fausto, and then he makes it seem like he is going to be a perfect dad, and Meraldo ends up getting on a bus and leaving. So he finally got out of the town. He finally got away from these people who are nothing like him, because he's not, I would say he's a loafer, but he seems like he's a better person than the rest of them. Like he actually is ready to go after his ambitions. He's actually ready to go after what he wants, and he ends up leaving on a train. So that's the entire movie. What do I think? So I actually really like this movie a lot, and one of the main reasons is because of the cinematography. There's a scene at the beach where they're just all standing on a pier at the beach. And the cinematography, the camera work that they do in this movie is absolutely incredible.
Adesso la spiaggia era deserta anche la domenica, ma noi andavamo lo stesso a guardare il mare.
Se adesso venisse un signore che desse 10.000 lire, lo faresti un bagno.
Every scene in this movie looks gorgeous. It looks like I'm watching like a Blu-ray copy of this, but I'm not. So I'm watching just a regular copy, and it looks beautiful. It's amazing. So the cinematography is great. The script is actually also very good. Now, for me, if I was to try to write a story about 5 guys who are loafers who don't really do anything with their lives, there's no way I could come up with anything like this. And I would think that it would be hard for a lot of people to come up with something as good as this. You hate Fausto, and you really care about Sandra, but it's the great writing, it's the great character development that really makes you hate Fausto. And you should hate him, and you do, that's because it works. It's perfect. All the characters, I think, are written very well. You don't really, the only one I really feel for, the only one I have any sympathy for is Sandra, and I think that's how it's supposed to be written. But I think at some point, the Fellini actually maybe is showing that he cares about the characters a little bit, because Alberto is very crushed that his sister is leaving. Leopoldo could have finally gotten out of the city if he had just been able to get this play off the ground, but he ran into that roadblock where that guy was trying to hit on him. Ricardo, I don't know. Ricardo was the one person in this movie that I really lost track of, so I'm not really sure what was going on with Ricardo, but the characters are written so well in this movie, and the writing, the screen, everything is great. And also, as far as the ending of the movie goes, I personally don't think Fausto is going to be that kind of father that he was at the end of the movie. I think he is going to eventually just fall back to what he was. And the reason why I say that is because in my personal experience, I've never seen a situation where a guy has cheated on a girl twice. I mean, he basically cheats on her twice in this movie, and then finally finds a reason to redeem himself and never do it again. Like, there's some sort of compulsion, I think, in people that make them do stuff like this. There's something in his brain, there's something that is ticking that makes him the way he is, and I don't think he's going to change just because he has responsibilities. I think he's going to eventually revert back to not wanting responsibilities. He's going to revert back to acting childish, to hitting on women, to cheating with his wife. I think at the end of the movie, they want you to believe that he's not going to do that. But personally, I think that it's going to happen. I think that he's just going to be continue to be a terrible person, because I don't think that people like that can change. Just personal experience, honestly. I don't think that someone like that can change. But yeah, besides that, the movie was really well paced. The carnival scene I thought was really great. The beach scene, though, to me, I mean, if I'm going to remember this movie like 10 years from now, it's going to be how bad of a person Fausto is, and just that scene on the beach, because it's just filmed so fantastically. Like, if I could, like, I want to sit on that beach and I want to loaf. It looks so nice. But yeah, I thought the movie was really good. All the characters were fantastic. Like I said, the screenplay was great. The acting was really good. The writing, this is the one movie like this, and I would say Tokyo Story and maybe Late Spring, probably the best writing I've seen in movies so far, where there's not a whole lot of action, there's not a whole lot of anything driving the movie besides the script, the writing, and the characters. And you have to do that really well for it to work. If you're just going to have a movie that's just based on characters, it really has to be good, and you really have to have the right kind of actors, the right kind of formula, and the right kind of directing to make it great. And I think this movie is really, really good. I actually enjoyed it more than I thought I would. When I read the premise of the movie, I usually just go to IMDb or something and just read the headline of the movie, what it's about. I thought, oh God, I'm going to hate this movie. I have had a whole lot of luck yet with Italian movies that I can think of, but this movie was great. I really, really enjoyed it. So far, I think it's the best Italian movie that I've seen so far. I'll have to go back and double check that, but I think it is the best Italian movie that I've seen so far. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Thank you. I hope you have a great day.